We rejoin our heroes after they have assembled to investigate the disquieted voices in the town of Avendrad, who have used recent political uncertainty to fall back into the worship of the old gods, which could threaten to uproot the peaceful social order. Though the wilds have remained calm from fell creatures or raiders, wild storms and unseasonal floods have caused a murmuring of ill omens. However, if anyone could divine the source of these disasters, it may very well be the rogue druid who sits at the center of this town's religious change of heart. To keep an eye on our adventurers, the canon of the local temple sent a confessor to chronicle these events. Splitting up to investigate, Margarash and Zaid discovered that the old gods are not the only ones taking advantage of this time of uncertainty, as it would seem conspirators from every stripe would be met, who may have something to gain from the building chaos. Even a humble apothecary seems to have ulterior intentions for the local nobility. Meanwhile, Wolfron and Noleme secured the location of the druid who is fomenting unsanctioned worship of the old gods. It would seem this movement is more organized than it appeared. However, before more work could be done, a heated exchange between a lone reckoning spider and our very own Noleme drew to a heated pitch. Insults were exchanged, and a challenge for life and blood was made. Before the night was done, they were to meet in the forest and duel to the death. Now Noleme sets out to prepare for his duel, seeking counsel from his friend Cinder, the wizard, to settle unfinished business, and to hear what advice he may, to steel himself for single combat. Alright, you stand before the Tower of Cinder of Gask. Before it, you see two people who must have left recently, maybe looking at a map, deciding what they're going to do next, and they're talking in low tones.
Before I go in, am I able to overhear or glean anything from the people who had just left?
The two behind you, you can hear No vacanetanti, esmiri manto, elundi emtando. It has a sort of meter to it. You recognize it as High Runark. You understand that they were heading north to Belmead. There's something about a distrust of the certainty of the current count, and there's also some mention of Comhall Castle, the need to keep the border strong. Why they were in Cinder's tower is any man's guess.
Okay, so you said that there is a distrust of the Count?
From what you picked up, they assume he's leaning too much on his victory from 10 years ago, when orcs from the Black Mountains raided Avendrad. He and Cinder repelled a force of orcs from the Black Mountains. They also express disbelief that the current calm in the woods is due to that.
I mean, since they're walking away, then I turn around and hail them in High Runark with a lowering of my voice, but still a smile. I say, have no fear. I just wish to talk about the recent peace in the area, for I too have doubts that it is due to the, and then I somewhat sneer and say, the noble Count of Avendrad.
They smile smugly and say, yes, peace, if you can call it that.
Since you are leaving Cinder's tower, does that mean that Cinder has finally decided to leave this hand that does not value the book that it holds?
What mean you, Elvenkind?
It is common knowledge that Cinder and the Count have long known one another, but if we are in agreement that the Count is not as he may appear to be in terms of his greatness, and you are here talking to Cinder, well, it stands to reason that perhaps Cinder too has seen the weakness of his old friend.
It may very well be, she replies in High Runark. But we will see if he makes the move back to Gask. What fates the gods have for Gask at all. I am more concerned what happens in Gorusad. I wonder if the hour of Avendrad nears its end. She looks at the setting sun.
It seems as though those of us who are wise will be gone from Avendrad soon. If not this night, then some night soon. I cannot imagine trying to weather what the world may bring us with the Count, as he is currently.
We make our way back to Belmead. When he says this, his companion elbows him in the side. "'Tis a dangerous road," he adds, nervously, rubbing his side.
Belmead, you say? But
Oh, yes.
on such a dangerous road, why go so far?
Because Belmead, he steps forward, is in need of leadership. They are the last border town between Calmhall Castle and Illithrond. They'll need a true ruler. We might very well have to split our ties from Gorosad. We shall see. He steps forward and continues to kind of pace around you. I wonder if you have heard any word from Menaris recently. No doubt that is why you're here.
I have come from Menaris. I would not, however, spy for Menaris. If I were to spy for Menaris, do you think I would have remained here so long afield that I could speak a tongue other than that bastard language that I was forced into?
Very well, very well. Your honor is in no doubt. We leave now for Belmead, actually in the morning, but I pray to Rune that we will meet again.
May Rune light and protect your way.
Inside is a dimly lit house and shopette. There are two armored individuals speaking to the host, who you recognize. He nods at you when the doors open, as if he had expected you. The two people turn around. One is Kelthas Ultor, the commander of the guard, of the actual standing army, not the militia. And one is Adro Magnus, a noble. The commander remains silent. He glanced at you, kind of sizing you up. But Adro Magnus kind of blurted out, "Oh, it seems we have visitors. Perhaps I shall see you later, if that is what you wish," says Cinder. They make to leave.
So as they leave and as I hear the door shut, I let my facade of being, composed and everything's fine fall, and then without invitation, I fall into the chair next to Cinder. I think you might be my last hope, Cinder, although you haven't known me for very long.
I've been waiting for you for some time. I suggest we get to the point.
What would you have first is our business. The reason why you sought me to come here, or the reason why I came here in such distress?
The letter.
Well, if you do know my family, as it seems to be clear that you do, then you might understand how once half-orc and I entered into the same party, and once I started to consider that half-orc a friend, and once that half-orc ended up being insulted, I think you can understand naturally how I now have a duel that I must attend at the cold hour before dawn.
That is your own business. It is imperative that you live. Use any means you can. I hope by now you've spent my good money I gave you. Did that give you an edge?
I don't know if it will give me an edge because, as you might imagine looking at me, I spent your good money on other people, as is my wont, but I don't know if I can count on them to come to my aid in a situation I have landed myself. I am hopeful that as you've helped me once before, you might be able to help me again, once we discuss getting one step closer to the answer to our mutual question.
Before I answer yours, you must answer one of mine, and in so doing, it will pave the way to what you want. There is a certain rumbling happening in the periphery of the society, especially around Avendrad, parts of Gas as well. Ever since the last king died, Arcturus, there has been a new fomentation of the old ways, as they call it, the worship of Sylvanas, which is not strange at all. I recognize the power of all gods, as should many others, but I'm here to tell you about what really matters. There's a rumor some people might have stumbled upon something in the woods, south or west of here, maybe even east in the Ibindu, old ruins, signs that there was a kingdom during the time of the Demon Wars. If that's true, it could hold the sort of eldritch knowledge we need. I would send you there, into the Ibindu, find what you can, and bring it to me. I need to study it. I've been placating these nobles for long enough. I don't know how long I can do it anymore. Once you bring me more information, I will offer you my proposal. I know that's not a lot to go on, and I'm sorry. Not even you would use a magical object in a duel. I don't know if I could save you from the courts.
Cinder, as he says that, I would not use a magical object. Originally, I was staring at my hands as he's telling me all this, my brow furrowing at various points, especially whenever he's talking about the kingdom during the Demon Wars. But once he says, I wouldn't, before he even says what it is, I look up at him and say, Cinder, I thought you understood the high purpose that I was trying to achieve. If you did, you wouldn't say I wouldn't about anything. You know I must. I must live through this encounter so that the project succeeds.
He walks across to you, looking you in the eyes, and clasps your shoulder. Take this ring. It is a ring of protection. It should help you. I have faith in you, as I have faith in what we do. There is no doubt in my mind we'll succeed, but if you do not, we are doomed.
As I said, I must succeed. There is no other option. There is no other way.
Indeed.
Cinder, you have offered me more aid than many supposed allies across my years that are not as long as some, but longer than many I have known. I hope in the future I can return your kindness.
If I yet live, I very well may be your only ally. There are none others who want what we want.
If those who I count as, even though they are recent acquaintances, those that I count as friends, if I'm not left to stand alone tonight, perhaps there may be others that could aid us. Thank you for all of your aid, Cinder.
He doesn't speak for a while. He seems to look through you, like trying to commit your face to memory. Finally, he nods, and then clasps you on the shoulder again. Quite well.
We shall meet again, Cinder. Just make sure that you're still alive when we do.
You hear the voice, I'm counting on it.
You sure picked a hell of a time for a duel.
Well, they are mercenaries. Mercenaries tend to have an alcoholism problem. Alcoholics tend to start drinking at night whenever other people can't see them, and we are about as far into night as night gets night. I'm kind of hoping that with them being probably shit-faced and overconfident, that I can just stick them with my rapier whenever they, overreach. Unless, of course, that idea of someone wanting to serve as a champion has started to appeal to anyone.
Oh, we wouldn't deny you your honor like that.
Oh, my honor, yes, of course. Yeah.
Especially when you devised such a clever plan already.
Oh, yeah, so clever. It's always best to count on someone who's going to be in a life or death struggle to be drunker than you are. That is the strategy of someone who totally has other strategies in reserve. Yes. I'm pacing nervously.
I would like to go ahead and walk ahead a bit and set up my trap right here in this brush. Like to coat the blades in the poison that was given to me.
You all have been led here by Wolfrun Haig, and would be the first one a mile before to point out the camp ahead. There's only one silhouette, and you can all hear the sound of rushing water.
So none of their companions hiding out in the trees surrounding?
Your half-lock eyes see a faint glimmer in the tree line behind the fires. It was only for a moment.
Wolfrun, do you see something out there?
Sort of motion with my hand forward, try to aim directly towards where I saw the reflection without saying anything.
All right. With him having pointed, I'm going to, if I talk, it's going to be at a dead whisper, but I don't think I'm going to say, it's not a good idea to talk out loud if he didn't say anything. I'm going to try and sneak a bit closer and then see if I can see anything more clearly. Do I actually have to roll for sneak, or can I just...
You absolutely have to. However, it would be at disadvantage unless Zaid douses his flame.
Zaid, he wouldn't care much for trying to sneak into the situation. He's like, yeah, we're going to be going to a duel. Both people agreed to do the duel.
Zaid, I would not approach without the actual duelist, without obviously declaring myself. But as we know, I am facing against a mercenary, and it's rare that you find a mercenary without a mercenary band. If I promise to you I will not attack him without first declaring myself, would you douse your flame just to make sure that this duel will be conducted in an honorable fashion?
That's fair enough.
Thank you. I will return shortly, and we shall continue on together.
You do realize that I do not wish to denigrate you, but I might be, what is it in the way that your kind might put it, the more eagle-eyed among you?
Yeah. Zaid, would you be willing to take that risk? I understand if I've already asked too much of you.
Well, I might not trudge as far along, but I can get myself out on an outcropping and see what I can see. Kind of lean up on against this statue, peer out.
David stabilizes the other side. You definitely see the silhouette that Wolfrun pointed out. He is in the middle of that camp. Seems to be warming himself next to the fire.
Just the one? Before you head further, might be worthwhile to share any confessions you wish to have taken note of.
David grins at this, whispers loudly, "Of course, I have bound this book myself, for all of you, actually. I took the liberty of forging your signatures, as I assumed that they would look."
Zaid is going to rustle his feathers aggressively at that.
"Sorry. Is there anything you want to confess? I will,
I confess frustration
Wait.
and demand that you blot those signatures out now until we provide them of our own volition. May Rune forgive your trespass."
He hastily blots out the first page of the book with ink, just like ketchup or something. Then he quietly proceeds to a bush after saying, "I will hear your confessions if you want to have them recorded before, well, possible death."
Well, hold on. I'll humor him. Zaid kind of rolls his eyes a bit, and then because he considers himself very pious, he finds a hard time coming up with something. But he confesses to not keeping to the memory of his old Nightmaster as well as he would have hoped in some ways.
As David is writing, he asks, "In what ways?"
Nice.
Everyone can hear exactly what they're saying very clearly.
I did not trust in Rune's wisdom as instinctually as she had hoped. I stuck too much to my books.
As he finishes this next line, he looks at you. "These could be our last moments. It's good to be precise."
Do not worry, good David. We are under the protection of Rune.
He shrugs, "Then may Rune protect us all."
Noleme fucking sneers and then also approaches the confessor and says quietly, "I too would like to confess," and then waits for the confessor to say something.
He simply raises his brows in shock and then returns to his earlier position.
"Confessor, I would like to confess a lack of faith. I do not have faith that Rune will protect me today. I do not believe that any god will protect me today. I do not believe that the gods give a damn for a half-elf. I tried to have faith in that. I see no reason to, even though I have always tried to believe something would be willing to do so. But I've learned that I have to either protect myself or count on the more tangible powers around me."
Before you leave, he adds, "If it makes you feel any better, I have read the confessions of Arcturus. I am unsure if he, well, where he is now." Then he closes the book. It's like,
I presume since I'm sort of nearby, I heard that. Zaid would try and catch up to him and stop him.
He doesn't tense at Zaid's approach, but he also does wait for Zaid to speak first.
Rune would bless all those who would seek truth and justice and righteousness. Do not worry yourself. You have as much reason for his favor as any other fleshy, unwinged beast.
I thank you for your kind words. I believe that I may have Rune's favor. If I have your favor, I may have some fragment of divinity protecting me because someone looked kindly on me as a person, not as a half-elf.
Our souls are more radiant than what can be contained by mere clothing and armor.
My face slightly saddens and darkens, but not in anger at that, and says, "Luminance varies, though. The soul of an elf, the soul of my father and my uncle glows different, and I can never achieve that radiance, or ever see them again. They are different than I am, because I am a half-elf."
This distinction puzzles me, but I would worry not. You're no serpent folk. Only they are damned forever. And then he chuckles to himself, not realizing his hypocrisy.
There are those in your faith who are damned forever? What could they have done to possibly warrant such condemnation?
Oh, Serpent Man? Being born from the pits of hatred, of course.
Noleme laughs at that, an actual laugh, probably the first laugh since that conflict in the market. And he says, I'm glad to have you along. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey, and for sharing in the joys of the travel at least.
But of course.
I walk up to Wolfrun. How good are you with that crossbow?
I'm pretty good with it.
Will you help me?
I can try.
I turn around and hastily brush past David, and I stop right before the trap. Can you get a good look across the river from here? I ask Wolfrun.
Squinting.
You can see a large amount of fortifications, multiple shields acting as a hastily made wall. You can see supplies for several men, and one person kind of standing around doing absolutely nothing. He's not even looking at the fire or tending to it. There are some glints coming from the surrounding forest in the background.
Does the person look like he's moving?
Only so much as an idle man moves.
This doesn't look right.
Some of us might believe in honor, but the spiders do not. So I request your help, and I point out the trap in the brush. If it is your wont to give us a bit of covering fire, so to say, I'm going to do my best to make my way around.
If I hit him, it's going to alert the others, and I assure you there are others.
Only fire if you feel it necessary, but I'm not going to wait for them to get the jump on us. The trap is just if anyone tries to advance on you.
Very well. No, they're over there, and there are many.
I understand that there's little trust between us and the Rachnians, but I urge you not to take an action before they've played a hand showing that they are not respecting the parameters of the duel.
Would you like me to wait until he's dead? And I point towards Noleme.
You don't need to wait. You can act at the very first sign that he's calling on others for aid. But I would not be the one to start us down a path against the entirety of a nation of mercenaries. Noleme entered into this arrangement of his own
Because,
free will, and we should honor his choice.
yes, well, I sort of engaged in that conversation that allowed him to walk over of his own free will, a conversation you encouraged me to indulge in, should I remind you. I won't
Indeed.
make the first move, but I will be close enough to act if I need to.
That is perfectly acceptable.
I want to make my way, around. My goal was to make it as far as, like here.
So since Noleme's stepping back up to us, I'm going to just put out a kind of quick reminder that, remember, it was the Rachnian who agreed that it was up to you to determine the time and place. So it is up to you to call him out to meet you to where you are. You do not have to engage in this duel at his tent.
I understand, and I also thank you for once again dousing your lantern. I will, as I said, openly declare myself. I will not strike from stealth, and I will not even unsling my bow from my back, but I ask you please, so our comrades are not targeted by vengeful archers. Should I prove victorious, as I must, I say jokingly, they won't have an easy shot.
I will not stand nearby them, but I won't do anything to hide my own presence once the duel has been declared.
I can ask no more. Thank you.
I climb this tree, try to get a vantage point.
All right, you cock-gobbling fuckstick, get your ass over here and let's get this over with. I yell that with everything in my being. I will have a hoarse throat tomorrow because of how loud I fucking yell that.
I'm gonna be ushering David to come over to Zaid where Zaid can protect him.
You hear a muffled yelling, but it sounds like an insult, like, "Oh, you
I gesture towards my waist and say, get over here for one purpose or another. As you can tell, I'm about ready to piss myself out of fear, and so this is a lot of false bravado.
For some reason, he looks at the tree line behind him. Then he very tentatively walks towards the waterline, the shoreline. When he reaches the shoreline, he stops, as if expecting you to meet him halfway.
I know that bathing burns you, but there's no soap in the goddamn water. Get your dirty ass over here.
I'm not taking one more step. We made a nice fire for you. I'm cooking tuna.
I don't give a what you're doing over there, you little chicken. Get your fucking ass over here.
Can I hear his words in this exchange from here?
Everyone can.
I silently acknowledge that he said the word we.
Oh, fuck. You didn't even have the good sense to lie about your fucking buddies back there? Get your ass over here before you make yourself look like a bigger chicken than you are.
He spreads his arms and turns around and looks at his camp. What buddies? I'm all alone here. I even made a camp for you. Made a nice fire. Made your last meal for you. He's gesturing towards the camp.
You're gonna tell me that your fucking lazy ass hauled the food out here for at least half a dozen people? Motherfucker, you would have eaten it all on the way here. Now, who are your buddies back there? Or are you so stupid that you don't understand pronouns?
What you hear is like a violent roar from like a 7-year-old. And then you hear the splash of water, and then poor doggy paddling. He briefly turns around after, and your opponent, your foe, stops at the path's corner. And then he points his dirk at the ground. He removes his hood to reveal his bald head shining in the moonlight. And he draws a line in the path.
So he'll saddle on up in order to make sure he's there before something happens.
David's gonna sit at the statue.
Yeah, he'll have told David to record the proceedings, if possible. And so as Zaid approaches, he'll kind of like stamp his banner spear into the ground a couple times and then speak up. Do the two of you wish for me to act as the witness to these proceedings and to ensure that it is being carried out honorably?
I wish for you to watch me honorably kill him. You may watch me dishonor his corpse afterwards if you wish.
Zaid rolls his eyes.
You can tell that he's trying to ignore you.
Zaid will just offer out, if you wish me to stop Noleme from engaging in dishonorable conduct, I would have you speak up now, lest I will leave it to the two of you. I have stood in between him, potentially acting against the proper purview of a duel before, and I would be happy to do so again.
I turn to my compatriot and say, we both know that we are more honorable than he is. Even I am. I just trust to your best judgment should his thugs try and mug me.
You hear a dark chuckle from the darkness. If I die, no one will be left alive.
Are you explicitly denying the sacred rites of the duel?
He spits on the ground and points the tip of his dirk at his would-be duelist. Has Noleme ever killed anyone?
Noleme has killed 2 people in the past. One was he's wounded several people, but he tries to make a particular point not to kill if he can avoid it. He finds that people are a resource, right? Even enemies can be a resource if you know how to manipulate them. He didn't hear because he was angry.
Before you begin, Margarash, do you wish to do anything else?
Well, unfortunately, there is no way I can see to cross the river without going through it.
You could jump.
Yeah.
Jump over
23.
Oh my god.
Holy shit.
I can't really be stealthy and jump, so I look at the clearing
Right.
and take a few steps in reverse, look to my left and right, and then just break off into a quick sprint towards the river and leap from one side, clear across the other, I imagine, if you're not interjecting. And I want to run immediately towards the shadow of the tree that's directly across.
Even with disadvantage, it's
are
not
a
bad.
shadow, and no one seems to have seen you. All is quiet, crackling fire. You do smell burning fish. He was right, they were cooking tuna. Do you wish to do anything else before their duel?
I don't care if I have to roll another stealth, I will. But I just want to be right here, like, knelt by the trees.
You hear rustling and the clicking of metal from the tree line. And then all is quiet.
Oh, can Zaid wave his flag? Like, go!
You may wave your flag.
Zaid waves his flag and lets it flutter in the darkness, signaling that the duel may begin. I'm gonna turn on my torch too, to provide luminance for the battle.
Having a cloak on is going to be a problem, so I toss my cloak on the ground, draw my rapier. I'd whisper to Zaid, saying, if you hear any disturbance that could indicate one of our friends is in danger, I would hope that you would see to them before continuing to watch this duel. I just whisper that. It doesn't need a response. It's just like a person who's thinking he's about to die, just expressing one last anxiety.
Zaid will stare forward, unmoving.
All right, then I would try and see what I can see about him using my dark vision. I want to say I'm definitely within 60 feet.
The Arachnian spider wore a patchwork of leather and brigantine in the foreign style, made popular by their organization. Though he came to the duel wearing a shield on his back and an extra blade, he only had one dirk drawn.
All right, now it's coming. I managed to talk my way into this. I managed to talk my way into a legit one-on-one fight. Now let's actually see what I can do with it.
Meanwhile, across the river, Margarash continues to creep closer towards the camp.
I take a look at my immediate surroundings to see if there's any movement, particularly from the tree line.
Upon closer inspection, you can make out the forms of warriors trying to stay hidden in the shrubbery. They busied themselves by preparing crossbows.
Can I place my battle axe on the ground and take one of my javelins out of my pack and then also throw it?
Sure. So do you attack the figures?
Yeah, I'm going to throw the javelin into the bush where I see one of the crossbows.
Amazingly, the javelin soars silently through the air until it lands with a powerful wet thud into the shrubbery. Two agonized screams break the cover of the hiding warriors, and soon the camp erupts into confused chaos. Someone shish kebabbed 2 Arachnian spiders.
In that case, I start pounding on my chest repeatedly and rhythmically like a drum and start picking up the pace over time and eventually just roar into the woods and throw myself into an adrenaline-filled rage.
Back at the site of the duel, the dance of death had officially begun. Noleme was holding his own and even struck the first blow.
As far as Zaid's concerned, he's pleased with the unfolding of the events. He always had confidence in his compatriot. Rune is showing his favor.
Now the entire forest was filled with the sound of battle, as the Arachnians' little plan had been spoiled.
I pick up my battle axe off the ground and leap from behind these trees and into their camp. And let's see if I can actually make that. I cannot, I don't believe. So I just race into the camp and I stare them down and I beat my shield with my axe, taunting them to come at me.
And come they did. The nearest Arachnian spider raced towards Margarash and cleaved a bloody gash into the half-orc's flank.
Ouch.
But Margarash was not alone. Wolfron had climbed a nearby tree and used this moment to shoot a crossbow bolt at the other remaining Arachnian spider right in the face.
Okay, so he took a headshot, but he's still, like, alive. In my brain, I'm picturing, okay, maybe he got shot, like, in the cheekbone, and it's just, like, it's not cranial, you know?
Barely alive, the poor bastard sank to the ground to die slowly.
When he falls over, I look towards the last remaining spider by me and give him just the biggest, most malice-filled grin I can muster.
He looks like he's seconds from retreating.
As I'm staring him down and he sort of starts backing away to try and retreat, I lunge forward and I swing, my grip tightening on the haft of my axe, and I release this sort of menacing war howl as I sweep and hit nothing but air, and a cry of frustration bellows from me, and as he is still trying to escape, my intentions are to blindly pursue. I am enraged and backing a lot of pent-up frustration in my fighting right now. And then we'll burn down these woods to make sure they stay dead.
Wait a minute.
The chase is on as Wolfron expertly slides down his vantage point. The duel across the river starts to weigh in Noleme's favor as the half-elven rogue scored another hit, slicing his blade into the side of his foe.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and position myself to his right, because if he's wounded on that side, hopefully it's more painful and he'll have trouble getting his sword all the way across his body. And then hopefully I can attack from a more advantageous position from trying to attack more to his right.
He rolled a 19 and then got his dexterity bonus and his proficiency bonus.
I'm thinking of all the heads I'm gonna collect when this is over.
At least 5.
Mm-hmm.
Can still hold out hope that there's 1 or 2 more hiding, pissing their pants out there in the woods. So, the blades touch just for the briefest of moments before, with a repost, I'm able to step just inside of his guard because he's already overreaching on his wounded side, and that allows me to drive a basically unhindered thrust directly towards the exposed meat around his neck, where the studded leather is not covering as securely.
With the final strike cutting true, Nigel the Bald of the Arachnean Spiders stiffened, looking at Noleme in shock. Rivulets of blood ran down his armor, painting him red. He was dead before he hit the ground.
Zaid will tap the end of his banner spear onto a rock, clinking, and then wave the banner around in a figure 8 a few times, and then announce forth, "Rune has smiled upon our victor today. Noleme, you have retained your honor."
Across the forest, Margarash, still filled with rage, caught up with her quarry. Now it would seem there was another duel to be had this night.
As our blades meet, steel against steel, I want to be, advancing in my strikes. Are you afraid?
The Arachnean spider catches his breath long enough to plead for his life.
You who have brought me shame, I will not suffer you to live.
But when it was clear that Margarash had no interest in mercy, he darted off into the darkness. However, their protracted battle bought enough time for the others to reach the site of the final duel. Foremost, Noleme, wielding his bow.
As I step into the light of the retreating torch, I pull back the arrow and the bowstring, take sight, and then as the traitor's back retreats into the darkness, I let the arrow fly.
Although the arrow missed, it stopped the Arachnean spider in its tracks.
I just want to run up behind him and once again just try and swing my axe toward him while his back is turned. As I rapidly close the distance, I'm reaching out towards him and swing, and I aim to hook my battle axe into his shoulder to sort of halt him in place and reel him back into me and into my grasp. And from there, I just sort of lose myself, just cleaving into him in different places with my axe, like a gargantuan meat cleaver, just sawing out his trapezius and waiting until he hits the ground to hit him over and over and over again, just venting raw emotion into every swing. When I finally start to come down from my rage, I feel the sluggishness in my arms from swinging, and I peer over my shoulder at the others, hyperventilating, just trying to catch a breath that won't come. And I drag the axe on the ground and just sort of start staggering back wordlessly towards their camp.
Once Margarash is gone, David the Confessor expresses his disapproval at the brutality.
It was in due combat. I do not favor the way she pursued a fleeing Arachnean, but he did attempt to intercede during a duel. Cannot say either of them were in the right. There's not to be done.
What we're to do is something we would discuss, which I will have something to say about if you want to intervene, but what you will do is hold your tongue. She did more for me in this than you did by far. As far as I'm concerned, you're not a party to this. That's right. Don't speak.
You are here as witness. He does have that much in the right.
Walks away to find Margarosh, seeing that Margarosh was wounded.
When we return to town, we can notify the authorities of the location of the corpses. Let them know that they intended to intrude on a properly officiated duel.
David the Confessor asks Zaid if Margarosh can be trusted.
Zaid furrows his feathery brows. Let me pose this question to you. Would you rather her be fighting on the side of Rune or against Rune?
After some thought, David asks if he should embellish the contents of his reports to save Margarosh from trouble.
Write only the truth of what you saw, and a rune will guide the rest.
Shortly after, the party is reunited at the campsite.
Just to give context for people walking back to the camp, I am doing a one-woman ransacking right now. I am looking through supplies, like any food they kept that wasn't knocked over, anything.
I mean, it doesn't look like they got a permit, so I guess it is finders keepers. Zaid will approach Margarosh and hold out his hands to her, assuming she doesn't recoil.
I do at first, just because the whole adrenaline just winding down from it, barely even taking notice of my wounds until I realize he's not being aggressive or reprimanding or anything like that. There's no reason for me to be defensive, so I just let my shoulders slouch and let him do his thing.
Zaid closes his eyes and says, "May your just actions be recognized by Rune, and peace be brought to your troubled mind as I lay on hands." I heal you for 5 points of damage.
Thank you. And I shake the feeling off. Like, I just feel whatever would constitute as filthy for a half-orc. Like an itch all over.
David offers to help bury the corpses.
It is most obliged of you. Perhaps Wolfrin can assist you, since he did not have to participate in the battle directly.
Noleme might not be as heightened as Margarosh is, but he's still a little bit tense from the fight earlier. So whether or not it leads to anything, he does comment out loud. They were born naked, they can be buried naked. I see no reason to put anything of value in the earth.
I'll hold up a hand to David and look to Noleme. You did receive Rune's favor this day. I would not spit at it.
I did not see any favor except that which I brought myself. I saw a champion of Rune standing by and doing nothing, which I believe that champion of Rune confessed to a similar sort of sin before the battle began. But I did not see any blessing of Rune in my sword this day. My ally was wounded in this fight. Where was Rune? Standing on the sideline.
David the Confessor voices his exception towards Noleme's comment.
You're going to have to deal with far more than that from those who are not of the faith. Steel yourself, David.
Very well, Sir Zaid.
David, are you on speaking terms with Rachnian spiders?
No, I've only seen them in passing.
How familiar are you with Ankarak?
I know that it's the largest port city on the Gorisad Peninsula.
Do you know anything about the presence of a gargantula?
A gargantula? Well, only what I've heard. It's the reason why the Rachnian spiders are going south. I haven't seen many on the road. It's a good thing things are so peaceful in the forest. Around here, anyway.
Would it make you feel better if I told you that they were trying to tame it?
Tame it? That can't be good.
Then I think what we've done here is a long-term favor. If you still find some sort of grievance with my actions, you can have my share of the gold, but I'm going to rest. And I climb into one of these tents.
You know, you may not agree with his faith, but David did offer his moral support before your duel, and it is better to make friends where one can than to spit in their face. I do not ask that you share his customs. I do ask that you share respect. I sought you out for your skills as a intermediary and cultural expert. And while you have proven worthy of employ, let us say I am taken aback by your candor. But you should revel in your victory tonight. I will leave it at that.
Noleme lets him say his piece, doesn't say anything, doesn't move, just continues to go ahead and like stare off and think as he was. He gives no recognition that he heard anything at all. Noleme thinks to himself that if he had one regret in all of this, it's that he may have made Zaid feel a twinge of dishonor, since Zaid did indeed follow him out here, although Noleme knows that wasn't necessarily for any sort of affection towards him, potentially. So I think he's just kind of lost, mulling over of whether this is a relationship that can be repaired or whether it is something that, once again, like, his temper has gotten the better of him.